Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of August 7th to the 13th, where I take a look at a couple of stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion about them. And we have 4 stories to cover, including the Splatoon 3 Direct that happened this week, though. The developers of the Deus Ex game have been talking about the future of the series, though. We also have supposedly a comment made from Square Enix regarding Crisis Core, Final Fantasy 7, whether it's a remake or a remaster and all. And comments made by the developers of Monolith Soft over Xenoblade Chronicles' future now that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is out in the market, though. If you're interested in where I got a lot of these sources of information, though, links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. But before we get started, I like to do what's called the quick My 2 Cents, though. Stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details. The first one is a report from Destructoid that basically reveals all the information and stuff that was announced at EVO 2022. Some of the announcements was that a new Fatal Fury game was happening, though, but the big one, I think, for some folks is that supposedly rollback netcodes are coming to Dragon Ball Z Fighter and all. Now, I'll admit I'm not really a fighting game person and all that stuff, but from what I've been hearing about rollback netcode, it sounds something, well, for now, it sounds something good in terms of addressing to ensure that lag isn't an issue or anything like that if you're doing, say, like online fighting games and all that stuff. And based on everything I've heard so far, it sounds like the best option right now, and obviously a lot of fighting game fans seem to be happy when Bandai Namco made that announcement, though. But I mean, if you're interested in what was shown at EVO, though, links will be in the description, though. We also learned that supposedly Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie, has a release date, and it's aiming for December 2024, though, so 2 years for now, to be exact, though. No word about the plot or anything at this time, though, although those who have seen Sonic the Hedgehog 2, spoiler alert who hasn't, but I'm sure a lot of people did, obviously it seems as though Shadow the Hedgehog will certainly be part of it, though, but what we don't know is whether Jim Carrey will return to play Dr. Robotnik, though. There has been talks about him saying he's kind of done, he's done with acting or all that stuff, but at the same time, we've heard him some claims that he says that if he's going to do Dr. Robotnik, he wants to do the fat Dr. Robotnik, the ones that, you know, a lot of people recognize, though. Certainly, it would be disappointing if he doesn't return, at least for this one last time, to play Dr. Robotnik. I thought he did a really good job playing that character. It's kind of like seeing a somewhat spiritual successor to a lot of his other characters, like, say, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, though. But regardless of whether that happens or not, Paramount is aiming for a December 2024 release date for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. We also learned that apparently someone discovered a 2-player mode in basically the Super Nintendo game Super Punch-Out, though, and I thought this was kind of interesting. 28 years later, and someone actually found this out. Now, I don't know if this was a hidden secret, if this was a debug or anything like that, but it's pretty amazing that folks found this. And supposedly this is also on basically, I think, the Switch's on online service, to be exact, though. So the game, since the game is part of, you know, the Super Nintendo Switch's online service, though, but still pretty interesting discovery, though. We also learned that Marvel's Midnight Sun has now been delayed. It was originally supposed to come out this year, but it has now been pushed back to 2023, and supposedly the PS4, the Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch version will have a release date a bit later. So obviously it doesn't sound like the game is outright canceled for the Switch, but it's certainly not going to come out at the same time the Xbox Series S and X and the PS5 version, though. Obviously, a little disappointed to hear about that, though. Again, the game from the folks who did XCOM 2, that certainly, it looks nice. The card system obviously raised some concerns about the whole issue of microtransaction and loot boxes, so I can see some of the concerns about that one. But Nevertheless, it looks like we're going to have to wait until next year to pick that one up. Speaking of another game that will be delayed next year, though, we learned that Metal Slug Tactics has been pushed back into next year. Originally supposed to come out this year, though. Obviously, a little bit disappointed, though, because I am a fan of the Metal Slug series, though. I love the run-and-gun 2D shooting type game. I was very curious to see how they would take it into sort of a tactical or sort of like an advanced war-like support, to be exact, though. So certainly is unfortunate, though, but we'll have to wait until next year to play that game. Is no reasons for why the game has been delayed. I'm assuming most likely it's maybe they ran into some technical bugs or something like that and they want to iron that out a bit more, or maybe add some features, to be exact, though. It doesn't sound like it's in the kind of situation Advance Wars 1 and 2 reboot are in, where Nintendo delayed that game due to the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia, though. We also learned that despite Netflix having the Netflix games, though, it seems that only 1% of their subscribers are aware of basically the Netflix games and all that stuff. So it sounds like while it's a very interesting idea, it looks like Netflix has its work cut out if they really want to push into sort of the gaming space, particularly this mobile gaming space that they seem to be aiming for, though. We also learned that supposedly Nintendo of America is named in a new workplace complaint, to be exact. This is the second one that has been leveled towards them and all. We'll have to wait and see what the investigation turns out about this, though. But I mean, yeah, it's a very serious complaint. I mean, if we can getting 2 complaints towards Nintendo, particularly Nintendo of America, then that tells me that there may be a major issue in terms of the workplace, to be exact, though. And there have been some reports of maybe union-busting tactics being in play, though, which, if that is true, though, I outright condemn any form of union-busting tactics, to be exact. I mean, I agree that unions should not bully, threaten, harass, or intimidate anybody from joining the union, but at the same time, this rule also applies to anybody that uses union busting tactics of any form or anything like that. As I said before, any decision of unionization must be up to the employees. They have to weigh the pros and cons to determine if this is the direction that we want to go, though. We also learned that supposedly a new trailer for Forspoken, Square Enix games, has basically the writing and the voice acting has certainly gotten some complaints to even some people turn it into memes, though. I tried to find the video, and for some reason I'm having a hard time trying to find it or anything like that, but it seems to have not get the attention maybe Square Enix didn't want or anything like that. So it's a little bit unfortunate for that game. It was supposed to come out this year but got pushed back into next year and all. We also learned that supposedly Microsoft has certainly now is accusing Sony of basically blocking developers from bringing their games to Game Pass. This is sort of like in response to comments that Sony recently made in regards of Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, in response to the fact of how they're worried that there won't be any like real competitors to Call of Duty or anything like that, though. Despite the back and forth that we're hearing, I still feel more than likely the deal will go through, to be exact. Whether it's done this year or next year, that remains to be seen, though. And in the non-gaming side, the movie side of things, we learned that supposedly Pat Oswalt may have leaked out the fact that Eternals 2 may be happening, though. Now, Eternals was somewhat diverse or somewhat mixed from a lot of folks. There are some folks who liked the movie, but some felt it took some folks who didn't, though. I thought it was a good movie, to be exact. Maybe not the best in Marvel's movies, but still different to some degree, though. But I will admit it kind of dragged on a little bit. The movie's about 3 hours long, to be exact, though. But given the way the movie ended and all that stuff, I certainly would be down with the Eternals 2, especially how the ending was done, which to me, I feel like the way the ending was done, it kind of sets up the stage for maybe the possibility of Galactus might make its appearance in the MCU, and Marvel has been known to move movies around a bit, and we've seen this before in the past. So it's possible in Eternals 2 will happen. It will probably happen in maybe one of Marvel's phases, but we'll have to wait and see. And last but not least, and in sad news, though, it seems to be actress Anna Hench, H-E-C-H, ECH, though, unfortunately has passed away at the age of 53. Supposedly, she passed away after suffering a car accident and all. Most people might recognize her from most people recognize her as she dated at one point Ellen DeGeneres, though. She has starred in several different movies, though. Ones that I can remember were the remake of Psycho and 1997's Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones and all. So I'm very sad to hear what happened to her, to be exact, though. And my heart goes out to her friends, her family, and fans of the actress, though. So unfortunately, she passed away at 53, though. Okay, with the quick my 2 cent part now done. Though, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, though. Now, obviously, most of you are aware, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is now out, available for the Nintendo Switch and all. I've been playing it for the last couple of days, and so far, I am enjoying it, though. It is definitely probably going to be I could see this being one of my favorite games of 2022 on the Nintendo Switch, and I could certainly see this game possibly getting nominated for Game of the Year. I don't know if it will 100% will win it, though. Obviously, right now, I could see, Elden Ring at the top, though. Probably Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. And obviously, last year at the Game Awards, though, an indie game won Game of the Year. So, there's always a possibility another game could win it, though. But I could definitely see Xenoblade Chronicles 3 getting nominated for Game of the Year, though. And I've definitely been enjoying the game so far. However, an interesting statement by Monolith seems to indicate about this series' future, though. It's been reported that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is the conclusion of what started with Xenoblade Chronicles 1, the first one that was released on 2010 for the Wii, got brought over here to the West in 2011. It was ported over to the 3DS, and then we got the definitive edition on the Nintendo Switch. Well, recently the developers at Monolith Soft released a statement, and it certainly gives you sort of an idea of the direction they may go with the Xenoblade Chronicles series going forward. And there have been several articles on this, but this one from Nintendo Life, basically this was an email sent to customers in Japan, and Nintendo sharing a message from Monolith Soft, one of the senior directors on Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Here's what they had to say, to be exact, though. Saying, this is from what they were translated, though. Quote, "Greetings to everyone who purchased Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This is Takahashi, if I'm saying the name correctly, from Monolith Support. Thanks to your support, we released the third Xenoblade Chronicle titles 12 years after the original one was released on the Wii in 2010. Xenoblade 3 has been called the culmination of the whole series up until now, and it truly is the culmination. We at Monolith have put everything we have cultivated over the past 12 years into it. It's also the stopping point to me. This title depicts the conclusion of the Xenoblade story that began with Claus, C-L-A-U-S, experiment. While it is a conclusion, that doesn't mean it's the end of the Xenoblade series. It's just a stopping point in my mind. I think that everyone who played this title and the additional stories in the expansion paths can imagine what lies in the future for Xenoblade. I have one recommendation for how to play Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Some of the things are marked by the question marks on the game map. Even if you're in the middle of a progression in the story, after finding the X mark, try taking a detour. There are many encounters waiting for you. Thank you for your continued support of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So, to me, how I'm reading into it, though, it sounds very similar to what we've heard about with last year when Metroid Dread came out. Good game, to be exact, though, on the Nintendo Switch. That Metroid Dread was really the conclusion of basically what started out in the original Metroid game back on the Super Nintendo, but not necessarily that means the end of that series and all. And that's how I'm reading it, at least again how I'm reading it though, for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This is a conclusion to what started with the first Xenoblade Chronicles games, but that doesn't automatically mean that the series is coming to an end or anything like that. I mean, if, say, Monolith Soft decides to do another entry into the Xenoblade Chronicles series, it probably more than likely will go a completely different direction. They might acknowledge what happened in the first 3 of the games, but it might be just a brand new set of stories for it to be exact, though. And I certainly wouldn't be entirely against that or anything like that. The end of one saga, but the beginning of a new saga or anything like that. I would certainly be okay with that, though. I certainly will also be okay with the idea of it, since this is the end of what started at Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii. I think one idea that Monolith Soft could do is go back and maybe remaster or remake, say, Xenoblade Chronicles X, which supposedly was its own story, to be exact, though. Maybe they could do a trilogy based on what Xenoblade Chronicles X started, to be exact, though. Personally, I would love to see Xenoblade Chronicles X ported over to the Nintendo Switch. Thank you very much, though. Or maybe Monolith could maybe take somewhat of a break from the Xenoblade Chronicles series and maybe come up with a brand new IP or anything like that. I mean, they show what they could do with the Xenoblade Chronicles series that they gave to us Nintendo fans, and I would love to see them take on maybe a brand new IP and all. That certainly would be nice if they do that, though. But overall, based on what I'm reading on it, I'm sure most people have come to this conclusion, though. Supposedly, though, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is the conclusion of what started Xenoblade Chronicles 1, but not necessarily ended the series. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see what direction they decide to take it, though. If a Xenoblade Chronicles 4 happens, I believe it will happen, though. Obviously, we'll see what some of the new stories once we know the expansion passes are coming and all that stuff. So we'll have to wait and see, but I can see the series going on, though. I don't know if it will go on like on the same level as Final Fantasy or anything like that, but hey, who knows? We'll have to wait and see on that one. As for where it is right now in terms of the sales chart, though, supposedly in the UK it has slipped from number 1 to drop to number 10, though. There could be sites for several reasons for that. Some might point to some folks are buying it digitally, as we're seeing more and more people buy it digitally. Others are waiting for, the collector's edition, which I will admit, I kind of think Nintendo really screwed that up when it came to the collector's edition, to be exact, though. But there have been reports this is the best Xenoblade Chronicles series has done in the UK, though, and I'm still kind of curious to see exactly how the game does once the NPD charts come out, though. We know it's shot at number 1 on the eShop, though, but I am curious to see how it does on the NPD charts, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 2, and this one has to do with a comment that basically the folks about Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII, about it being somewhat of a remake or remaster or something like that. So we'll take a quick break and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII, or at least some of the comments the developer has made in regards of is this a remake or a remaster, though. Now, the original Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII was released back during the PSP era, though, which, as far as handheld goes, I would say that system was a bit more successful than, say, what the Vita is right now, to be exact, which unfortunately Sony just decided to throw that one under the bus and all, though. And recently it was announced that this game would be getting a port not only coming over to, the PS5, but also the Xbox systems and even the Nintendo Switch, though. Now, there has been some talks about the Switch version, as there may be some differences between basically what the Xbox Series S and X, the PS5, and obviously the PC version, though, but it's still nice the game is coming over to the Switch nevertheless. Well, anyway, it seems as though the developers had made some comments, though, that basically is signaling that it's not exactly, it's not a full-on remaster, but it's not a full-on remake anyway. This comes from basically Nintendo Everything, which they've translated, and this is when one of the creative producers told what's called Every Eye, and this is what he had to say. Quote, "We had mixed feelings on it, as we weren't sure the best way to describe the project. At one point, it was also a discussion about calling it a remake or a remaster. I think the product is more closer to the definition of a remaster, as the story wasn't changed at all, and it was always the same game. On the technical side, however, the graphics have been completely renewed, the models have been remade from scratch, many scenes that in the original were only subtitles are now dubbed, and also the combat system has been updated. We are still uncertain on the term that better describes the game, which is the reason why we use reunion. It's really complicated as it's much more of a remaster, but at the same time, not a complete remake." So, for me though, I'm thinking this is more of a remastered. Based on what they showed though, what I've seen so far, obviously the visuals are going to look better than what was originally on the PSP though. Combat, I could see it being somewhat closer to what the Final Fantasy VII remake to be exact though, but it looks like the story is probably going to stay the same or anything like that. I never played the original one back on the PSP, so I'm definitely looking forward to picking this one up, especially since it's coming to the Nintendo Switch. And the fact that they didn't change the story or anything like that, it's kind of interesting in a way, because supposedly when Final Fantasy VII originally came out back in 1997, though, supposedly the main character, Zack, was supposedly already dead. However, spoiler alert for those who haven't played Final Fantasy VII Remake, though I'm sure most have right now, the ending of that one supposedly showed that he's somewhat like he's alive and all that stuff, and supposedly was shown in the other trailers for the next chapter in the Final Fantasy VII saga, though. So I'm kind of curious how this is all going to play out to a certain degree. But either way, as far as Crisis Core goes, even though they're not calling it a remaster, though, judging by what I've been hearing and from what they've shown so far, I'm leaning more towards this is probably a remaster and all. And that's not necessarily a bad thing or anything like that, though, but it's the direction I'm sort of leaning towards this one on that, though. So overall, yeah, the developers are calling Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. They're saying it's not a remake, it's not a remaster. I can see why it isn't a remake, because it's not the kind of remake we saw when we had them exactly remade, Final Fantasy VII from what was originally out in 1997 to what we have right now. But I definitely feel this is more than likely just a remaster, though. But either way, I'm looking forward to it. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with Deus Ex and its future, though, and it seems as though the developers at Aulx Montreal might be interested in doing another entry. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at the developer Aulx Montreal, especially regarding the game Deus Ex. Now, earlier this year, Square Enix sold off some of their studios that they own, particularly Crystal Dynamics and Aulx Montreal. This is a studio that is responsible for, the Tomb Raider series and the Deus Ex series, to be exact. But Crystal Dynamics was responsible for the Avengers game, which the live service game that didn't do as well as Square Enix has hoped for, though Square Enix has a history of setting their expectations too high, though. They sold the rights to some of these games, these studios, to the Embracer Group, which also owns a lot of studios like THQ Nordic, Cork Media, Deep Silver and all, and we've seen them buying up studios and even greenlighting some old games, to be exact. And apparently it seems as though Aulx Montreal is certainly interested in doing another Deus Ex game. From an article published on PlayStation Lifestyle, it reads that, quote, now that Aulx Montreal has a new owner, the studio is reportedly wanting to make a new Deus Ex game and do what Cyberpunk 2077 couldn't. That's according to journalist and insider Jeff Grubb, who has a history of a hit and miss to some degree, who said in the latest episode of his Game Mess morning show that Aulx Montreal wants to revive its critically acclaimed franchise, and with Embracer Group taking the reins over from Square Enix, there's hopes that that can actually happen though. Further along, he said, quote, we don't know what really to expect from Embracer-owned Crystal Dynamics Aulx Montreal. It's worth pointing out that Crystal Dynamics, as of right now, are helping out Microsoft in the initiative over the Perfect Dark reboot, though. Anyway, continue on. It's early. The rumblings I've heard is they want to get right back into Deus Ex, Grubb says. Like I said, they want to do what Cyberpunk 2077 couldn't. That's the word going around. I mean, we'll see if that happens. It's so early. Who knows what that will turn into? But that was probably not even. There was no possibility of that conversation to ever begin under Square Enix, right? In a Reset Era thread discussing Grubb's comments, fellow journalist and insider Jason Schreier told fans to keep their expectations in check. While there is a possibility that Embracer Group will greenlit a new Deus Ex game, and it has previously indicated interested in doing so, it will be a while before we see it, because the game further in development at Aulx Montreal right now is a new IP, and if they release a new Deus Ex game, it won't be for a very, very long time. Nevertheless, there's finally some hope for Deus Ex fans. The last game, Mankind Divide, released in 2016 and didn't meet Square Enix's sales expectation though. So, would I be down with the idea of a new Deus Ex game? Yeah, I certainly would be open to it if they were to make a brand new one, though. Obviously, Square Enix wasn't happy with Mankind Divide, although, like I said, they sometimes set expectations too high. Plus, not everyone was a fan of some of the microtransaction decisions they decided to do in Mankind Divide, though. But still, a new entry would certainly be nice indeed, though. Obviously, judging from what we've been hearing, and at least what Jason Schreier is saying, though, it will probably be a while before we hear a new Deus Ex game, as it seems as though Aulx Montreal is busy working on a brand new IP, much like how Crystal Dynamics is working on supposedly another Tomb Raider, but working on the Perfect Dark reboot. But either way, I mean, even if a new Deus Ex game isn't in the works at this time right now, though, I think what they could do at the very least is consider the possibility of maybe remaking or at least remastering. We know Embracer Group has done a lot of remasters lately of maybe, Human Revolution and maybe Mankind Divide. Maybe remaster them, put some tweaks here and there for, like the Xbox Series S and X, the PS5, or even, let's say, the Nintendo Switch. I would be down with Human Revolution and Mankind Divide making their way over to the Nintendo Switch. I mean, they brought Deus Ex Human Revolution over to the Wii U. I can't see how they can't bring that over to the Nintendo Switch in any way. So, yeah, I certainly would be open to a Deus Ex game, but obviously, if what Jason Schreier is saying, though, it's probably going to be a while before we hear anything, though. Although a lot of people would love to see another, Legend of Kain, Soul Reaper, or remake or remaster of that game, to be exact. So overall, though, it does sound like there is some hope for the Deus Ex series, especially those who are a huge fan of that series, though. But it sounds like it might be a while before we hear anything about it, though. As for doing what Cyberpunk 2077 couldn't do, though, again, it is possible, though. I mean, Cyberpunk 2077 did not get the best response when the game originally launched. Supposedly it's better now, but still, that kind of hurted CD Projekt Red's reputation, though. So, yeah, Aulx Montreal is in a good position to do what Cyberpunk 2077 couldn't do, assuming they could pull it off, though. So, but for now, it looks like they're busy working on a new IP, and we probably won't hear anything about Deus Ex game for a while, but it sounds like there is hope for Deus Ex after all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part, and this one has to do with the Splatoon 3 Direct. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My Two Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Splatoon 3 since it had its direct done this week, though. Obviously, Splatoon has sort of been a success for Nintendo ever since it launched back on during the Wii U. This was followed off with Splatoon 2 on the Nintendo Switch, and now we're gearing up for Splatoon 3, which I believe will be out next month. Again, I apologize if I don't have the date down or anything like that, though. And while I admit I'm not really a big multiplayer fan or anything like that, though, I do think the approach that Nintendo took with this sort of multiplayer style of approach is kind of interesting, where it's not exactly the same, like multiplayer, first-person shooter or anything like that. It's mostly paint your territory with ink. Whoever has the most territory, it wins and all that stuff. So it's an interesting concept that Nintendo did with terms of Splatoon and all. And now with the Direct happening, though, we basically have some more information about what we could expect for it, though. Now, obviously, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to watch the Direct, though. A lot of things kind of popped up that I had to deal with, though. But I was able to look at a rundown of a lot of the things that they basically announced, though. And there are certainly a couple things that stuck out with me the most, though. Some of the stuff that certainly stuck out is that basically we're going to be seeing some new battle stages, some new abilities, such as something like a squid surge, where players can use squid surge to swim up walls quickly in a single burst, or a squid roll, where you could do a fast 180 turn and all that stuff. There's also some new abilities like intensify action that improves squid rolls and squid surge to sub resistant up, which diminishes enemy subs weapons, though. They also announced some brand new battle stages like Haggy Fish Market, Uptoe Spillways, and others, though. They also pointed out that previous maps will be making an appearance, though. There are some new weapons, though. One that kind of stuck out for me the most is the Splatana Wiper, which is sort of a part katana, part windshield wiper and all. It's also a long-range weapon that could shoot ink in wide arcs and all that stuff. There's also special weapons like the Tacticooler, a vending machine that provides up to 4 players with in-game drinks to boost their stats and abilities. Pop it down at the start of the match for tactical advantages. That's certainly nice. They also announced new amiibos. Obviously, they have the Inkling Yellow, the Aukling Blue, and Small Fry fish, though. They basically they're basically being sold separately, though, but I have a feeling we'll see a bundle pack or anything like that. They said the amiibos can be scanned to access exclusive gears, take photo with them, and save your character's gear combination as fresh fits, though. They also announced that they'll be restocking Splatoon 2 amiibos will be restocked along with the new ones. They point out the Carlene and Marlene pack and the Pearl and Marlene pack as well. They also announced the new divas, though, by the name of the trio called Deep Fry, which is Fry, Shiver, and Big Man, who is a Stingray, though. The music video they showed off is definitely not the poppy type that Pearl and Marlena were or anything like that. Definitely more of a, oriented or like Japanese style of approach. Again, not bad or anything like that. Some people may have liked the pop approach. Others may like this. I kind of like this one a bit more. They talked about Splatfest, which will be happening on August 27th, 2 weeks before the launch of the game on September night. They announced keywords for matching with friends. They say a post-launch update will bring the option to use keywords to ensure you match with friends, or, for example, opt to a very cool Nintendo, let's say the Nintendo Electronic. All right, save data backup will be there. There's going to be three-player turf war, though. This sort of ran out of they're talking about basically how they have one which looks like one where they have what's called rock, paper, and scissors, though. So that's going to be kind of interesting, though. They have customized Splatoon tags and lockers, though. To me, this most likely is just cosmetic stuff. So to me, I don't think it's as big of a deal, though. Some might disagree with me on that and may think it is, but not really my type of thing. They have the Splatoon 3 app. They have a new mini game called Table Turf Battle, which is, they're saying, quote, a new mode Splatoon 3 where players can ditch the ink for cards. Table Turf Battle is a 1v1 competitor games where cards are played to ink in a grind-based battlefield with over 150 cards to collect, though. It looks neat, but I can't help but shake the feeling the word loot box or microtransactions might be in it, though. Again, we don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. We also have basically Anarchy Battles, which can be played in both single and multiplayer mode. They say Anarchy Battles is the new name for Splatoon 2's ranked battle modes. All 4 rotating rules, Splat Zone, Tower Control, Rainmaker, and Claim Blitz are returning, and players will be able to compete for the best rankings for these object-based blasts out. If you're looking to play with friends, you could join in Anarchy Battles Open, but if you're thinking of going alone, there's a Anarchy Battle series, which it certainly is nice, especially for those who want to go it alone, that kind of approach. So that certainly is nice, though. Lobby goes, trainings and all. Rewards for Splatoon 2 players, though. So if you have stuff from Splatoon 2, and if you play that game, you can bring in, you'll unlock some stuff for Splatoon 3, though. They also talked about post-launch updates, so we'll probably see some more, I assume, free updates and all that stuff for it, though. Although they have talked about there will be large-scale DLCs, which, if it's more like single-player DLC, I'm certainly fine with that, though. They said that Miiverse is returning to some degree. You will be able to, Splatoon 3 players will give players the ability to draw small cartoons or write words or post memes and have them be visible in Splatfil to other players, just like Miiverse. And this time you can do vertical art too. Again, that sounds great, but I have a feeling, I know what Nintendo is trying to do with this, though. I'm not saying I'm against this, but I'm not saying I'm against, some sort of Miiverse in Splatoon 3, but I have a feeling that there are some folks who might put out, maybe say, like, inappropriate words or draw an inappropriate object to the point that it could put Nintendo in the position to delete this feature or anything like that. Again, it's too early to tell. We don't know if that will ever happen, but I just feel it has all the makings of something like that to happen and all. And last but not least, they talked about 2 things, though. The story mode, which is definitely going to be neat, though. I do hope that the paid DLC also adds more story mode content. But one that I thought was kind of really neat is the Salmon Run. That was sort of an interesting thing in Splatoon 2. However, there were times when it was available and times that they aren't, though. And if I'm reading this correctly from Nintendo Life, it seems as though it's going to be open 24/7, so you could play it against anybody you want or anything like that, though. It was a fun feature in Splatoon 2, to be exact, though. They also announced that the Direct also promises a new mode called Big Run in the future, where we'll see the Salmonoids invade Splatfest itself. So pretty neat. Salmon Run was definitely fun on Splatoon 2. I'm happy to hear that it's going to be open on 24/7, assuming I'm reading that correctly, though. But overall, I would say some really neat features. We're going to probably get some more weapons and all that. But to me, based on everything I read, it still doesn't sound like we're going to see a huge difference. Yes, there's some tweaks here and there for Splatoon 3, but it's pretty much going to be playing similar to what you played in Splatoon 2 and the original Splatoon and so forth, though. So, still, it's definitely one I'm sure a lot of Splatoon fans are going to be looking forward to picking up when this game comes out September 9th and all. But that's what they said in the release date, though. I'm still looking forward to the single player, the Anarchy Reign that can be played going alone is nice, and the Salmon Run being open 24/7, assuming I'm reading that correctly, it certainly is a good thing. So yeah, Splatoon 3 is definitely one I'm going to be looking forward to. Maybe not on the same level as, say, Bayonetta 3, which is my big game I'm looking forward to in October, but I'm still looking forward to Splatoon 3 nevertheless. Okay, this concludes this my 2 cent video for this week, though. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the comments made about Xenoblade Chronicles 3, though? Do you think this is going to? Do you think you read it in the same way as what Metroid Dread is? Is that this is the end of one chapter? It's going to be the beginning of another chapter, though. What direction do you think Xenoblade Chronicles 4 should go if they decide to do that? And do you think they should basically continue the storyline from what started with, say, on Xenoblade Chronicles X, though, now that the storyline from Xenoblade Chronicles from 1 to 3 is now concluded and all? What are your thoughts about Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII? Are you still looking forward to this game, though? Do you think it's a remake or a remastered, or do you think it's more on the remaster side of things, though? What are your thoughts about the comments about a Deus Ex game and all that stuff, or what the developers make, though? Do you think are you happy to hear that they are interested in doing another Deus Ex game, though? Do you think it's possible that the Deus Ex game can do what Cyberpunk 2077 couldn't do, to be exact, though? Do you think that Aulx Montreal should do a remaster or a remake or a re-release of Deus Ex Human Revolution and Mankind Divide, though? And if so, do you think they should port it to multiple systems, including, say, like the Nintendo Switch and everything? And what are your thoughts about the Splatoon 3 Direct, though? Did you watch the Direct, and if so, did you like what was shown during this Direct, though, or are you not 100% sold on Splatoon 3 at all, though? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon or notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye.